Imagine waking up on Quantum Day Zero. Every password you ever used, every late-night message, every medical record, every location ping your phone ever sent, all suddenly readable in bulk by anyone with access to a powerful quantum computer. Governments, corporations, cybercriminals, and even your future employer can rewind your life like a searchable movie, pausing on your worst moment with perfect clarity. For years, experts warned that the encryption protecting our data would not survive the rise of quantum computing, that one day, known as Q-Day, the math behind today's security would simply break. But Q-Day is not just about futuristic machines. It is the final stage of a long chain of decisions that eroded privacy step by step, often with our enthusiastic consent. This is the story of those decisions. 10 fatal choices. 10 turning points where governments, corporations, and ordinary people traded long-term privacy for short-term convenience, fear, or profit. When we reach number 1, you will see why Quantum Day Zero is not a surprise twist. It is the inevitable ending of a story we have been writing for more than 30 years. Number 10. The day we put our lives online. Chapter 10 begins in the 1990s, when the public internet stopped being a curiosity and became the new infrastructure of daily life. In 1991, the internet opened to the public, and with it came a revolution in how data could be collected, copied, and stored, often permanently. What felt like a digital frontier was also the birth of an invisible recording system, quietly logging who we were, what we read, what we bought, and where we were. By the mid-1990s, basic tools like browser cookies and secure connections, SSL, were introduced to make the web functional and convenient, allowing sites to remember user preferences and secure payments. But cookies quickly became more than a convenience feature. They became the backbone of behavioral tracking, letting sites follow users across pages and sessions, building early profiles of their habits and interests. Few people read the small pop-up warnings or privacy policies. Most just clicked OK to keep browsing, trading abstract privacy for immediate access. At the same time, a simple but profound technological shift was happening in the background. Digital storage was becoming incredibly cheap. Instead of deciding what to keep and what to delete, companies could retain almost everything forever. Every log, every transaction, every click, because the cost of saving was lower than the cost of thinking about what to discard. A visiting computer science professor described the core problem clearly. When storage is cheap and policies are weak, data tends to flow around and get linked to other data, creating a powerful, permanent shadow version of each person. Most users never saw this shadow. To them, the internet looked like web pages, chat rooms, and email accounts. But underneath, a quiet cultural decision took hold. If a system could collect data, it should. If it could store it, it would. No democratic debate, no clear public vote, just a default setting. Record everything now, figure out how to use it later. This was the first fatal choice. Not a law, not a scandal, just a collective shrug. Because the danger was invisible, the trade-off felt harmless. Yet in that moment, the structure of our future was set. A world where your privacy depended not on what you shared, but on what others decided to store about you, indefinitely. Number 9. Convenience over consent. Once life moved online, the next choice was how those systems would treat consent. Whether people would have genuine control over what was collected or be nudged into surrendering it. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, as e-commerce and online advertising exploded, companies discovered something. Users would accept almost any data collection if it made services smoother, faster, or more personalized. The interface patterns that defined the web were built around frictionless acceptance. Long, unreadable privacy policies. Tiny checkboxes pre-ticked by default. Pop-ups that blocked the content you wanted until you clicked, "I agree." In theory, consent existed. In practice, it became a legal shield for companies rather than meaningful control for users. As online advertising matured, tracking shifted from simple cookies on single sites to sophisticated cross-site and cross-context tracing. Ad networks could follow you as you moved from news sites to shopping pages to social platforms, aggregating your browsing into detailed behavioral profiles. This aggregation was exactly the kind of privacy harm legal scholars had warned about. Individually, harmless bits of data combined into a revealing portrait of your life. Instead of asking, "Should we collect this much?" the industry asked a different question. How can we collect more without scaring people away? The answer was design, shaping experiences so that the path of least resistance always led to more data sharing. Apps would break or lose features if permissions were denied. Websites would nag until users accepted tracking. Users, exhausted by constant prompts and eager to get to what they wanted, adapted. They stopped treating privacy prompts as choices and started treating them as obstacles to clear. This psychological adaptation, the normalization of blind acceptance, was another fatal choice, even if it never felt like a decision. Every click on "agree" told the market the same thing. People will trade away their privacy for convenience, especially if the cost is hidden and the benefits are immediate. By the time regulators tried to step in with early directives and later frameworks like the GDPR, they were not reversing a trend. They were trying to control an ecosystem built around the idea that consent was a formality. The culture of "click to continue" had already trained a generation to surrender control faster than any legal text could restore it. Number 8. Social media. Voluntary surveillance. If early web tracking built shadows of our behavior, social media invited us to build those shadows ourselves, publicly, and with enthusiasm. In the mid-2000s, platforms like MySpace and Facebook turned self-disclosure into a social game. Profile pictures, relationship statuses, political views, location check-ins, and long timelines of posts that captured thoughts and emotions in real time. What once would have been fleeting conversations or private moments became searchable, archivable content objects tied to real names. Behind the scenes, this data was far more revealing than most users realized. Researchers demonstrated that with a handful of basic details, such as date of birth and hometown, it was possible to predict something as sensitive as a person's social security number with disturbing accuracy. SSNs were never meant to be public identifiers, yet the combination of public profiles and predictable numbering schemes suddenly put entire populations at risk of identity theft. At the same time, social networks turned social graphs, the map of who knew whom, into a powerful resource. By analyzing who you interacted with, what you liked, and how you responded to different types of content, platforms could infer political leanings, emotional vulnerabilities, and even personality traits. This created an unprecedented level of psychographic insight, something political consulting firms and advertisers later weaponized. One of the clearest warnings came with the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where data harvested from millions of Facebook users, often under misleading or deceptive pretenses, was used to build psychological profiles and target political messaging. It was a moment when the abstract risks of oversharing became concrete. The same information people posted to entertain friends and pass time could be used to manipulate their votes and beliefs. Yet, even after these revelations, usage barely dipped. The social value, staying connected, being visible, belonging to a digital crowd, outweighed the invisible threat. Each like, share, and follow added another line to the invisible dossier, helping construct a version of each person that others could query, sort, and monetize. By making surveillance feel like social interaction, social media did not just collect data, it rewired expectations of privacy. Future generations grew up assuming that everything important in life should be posted, tagged, and time-stamped, turning voluntary surveillance into a cultural norm rather than an alarming exception. This normalization erased one more layer of defense, setting the stage for even more invasive systems to be accepted as just how life works now. Number 7. The data broker underworld. While people focused on visible apps and platforms, a quieter and more opaque industry grew in the background: data brokers. These companies specialize in collecting, buying, aggregating, and selling information about individuals, not just from websites, but from credit card transactions, public records, loyalty programs, and countless other sources. Data brokers perform what some researchers call information arbitrage, buying raw data in one context, reinterpreting and repackaging it, then selling it in another. The result is that a single person can be represented by thousands of data points, merged from different devices and accounts, then scored and categorized for everything from creditworthiness to risk of churn or likelihood of committing fraud. These profiles are not always accurate, but they are widely used in decisions that affect housing, employment, insurance, and access to services. One of the most disturbing features of this ecosystem is how hard it is to escape. Investigations using platforms like Facebook's ad system have shown that an overwhelming majority of accounts can be linked to data broker records, meaning that even if you avoid certain websites, your offline behavior, purchases, memberships, demographic details can still be pulled into digital profiles. Cross-device tracking uses machine learning to connect phones, laptops, tablets, and even smart TVs back to the same person, making anonymity increasingly fragile. The legal landscape has not caught up. Many data brokers operate with minimal transparency and limited direct oversight, exploiting gaps in regulation and jurisdiction. Unlike major consumer-facing platforms, they do not rely on your trust. Their customers are other businesses and governments. That means they can keep operating even if public sentiment shifts, as long as there is demand for the insights they sell. This underworld of data commerce turned personal information into a commodity, a resource to be bought and sold in bulk. Once something becomes a commodity, the pressure is always toward more. More data sources, more detailed inferences, more aggressive collection. On Quantum Day Zero, it is not just your messages and passwords at risk, but this entire ecosystem of opaque profiles linking your identity to a web of assumptions and predictions you never saw. In allowing this market to grow largely unchecked, society made another fatal choice: to treat human privacy as a byproduct, not a right. Collateral damage in the pursuit of targeted efficiency and profit. Number 6. Security theater and mass data hoarding. As the commercial world built detailed profiles for profit, governments were making their own fateful choices, especially in the years after September 11, 2001. The threat of terrorism created a powerful political incentive: collect as much information as possible, just in case it might prevent the next attack. The result was an expansion of surveillance powers that normalized mass data collection as a security strategy. In the United States, The USA Patriot Act dramatically broadened the ability of government agencies to obtain information from internet service providers, financial institutions, and educational organizations, often without traditional judicial oversight. Agencies could demand digital records through expanded subpoenas, gaining access to customer data, financial information, and even student records by simply certifying that the information was relevant to an investigation. Similar measures and secret programs in other countries mirrored this pattern. Collect first, justify later. This approach turned the entire population into potential suspects, not in name, but in data. The logic was seductive. If technology allows the collection of vast amounts of communication metadata, location histories, and transactional logs, then not collecting them might be seen as irresponsible. But as privacy scholars warned, the more data that is collected and linked, the more severe the risk when those systems are abused, breached, or repurposed. One rarely discussed consequence was that state and commercial surveillance began to reinforce each other. Governments could purchase or request access to commercial data sets compiled by data brokers, ad networks, or platforms, effectively outsourcing parts of their surveillance infrastructure. Meanwhile, companies could point to legal requirements and national security demands as justification for retaining more data than they otherwise might. All of this data, from security cameras to communication logs to financial transactions, was stored in increasingly large and complex systems, often with imperfect security practices. When storage is cheap and oversight is weak, the path of least resistance is to keep everything forever. This mass hoarding of sensitive information created a gigantic attack surface for hackers and foreign intelligence services, who see those centralized stores as valuable targets. By equating more data with more safety, societies made a dangerous bet that these systems would always remain under the control of benevolent actors. Quantum Day Zero exposes the flaw in that assumption. Once the underlying encryption and security models are broken, these vast archives become readable historical records, not protected evidence lockers. Number 5. The Age of Mega Breaches. As data collection expanded, breaches followed. From the mid-2000s onward, massive data exposures became a recurring headline, each larger than the last. In 2005, one of the first huge incidents saw 1.4 million customer records stolen, signaling that large-scale theft of digital identities was not a theoretical risk, but a practical reality. Over the next decade, breaches multiplied across industries, retail, finance, social networks, and more. Between 2012 and 2017 alone, there were more than 130 significant data breaches, compromising over 4.5 billion records globally. Some of the biggest incidents, like Yahoo's breach of 3 billion accounts, proved that even tech giants with vast resources could fail to protect user data. These breaches exposed email addresses, passwords, security questions, birth dates, and other sensitive details, much of which ended up traded or sold on underground markets. Researchers highlighted an unsettling pattern. Organizations did not just fail to prevent breaches, they often failed to properly erase data even when devices were retired. In one study, a third of used hard drives purchased online still contained sensitive information, including thousands of credit card numbers left on drives from ATMs and supermarkets that had never been securely wiped. This revealed a cultural neglect of data hygiene, a belief that if something was out of sight, it was safe, even when the information itself persisted. Yet, despite the scale of these incidents, the broader system did not change fundamentally. Users were told to rotate passwords, watch their bank statements, and accept credit monitoring services. Companies issued apologies, paid fines, and moved on. The baseline expectation quietly shifted. Not that data should be absolutely safe, but that some level of identity theft and exposure was simply part of modern life. This normalization of mega breaches had a subtle but crucial effect on the path to quantum day zero. It meant that enormous archives of leaked, partially encrypted, or hashed data could sit in criminal hands for years or decades, waiting for a breakthrough. Quantum computing, by dramatically reducing the time needed to crack many forms of encryption and hashing, turns these time capsule breaches into delayed release disasters. What looks secure today may be trivial to decode tomorrow, especially if the protective algorithms were never designed to withstand quantum attacks. By tolerating an environment where mega breaches were routine and long-term data retention was the norm, society implicitly agreed to a dangerous experiment: store everything, secure it imperfectly, and hope the future never develops the tools to unlock it all at once. Number 4. Backdoors, weak doors, and broken trust. Even as breaches exposed the weaknesses of corporate security, another debate raged quietly: whether governments should have guaranteed access to encrypted communications through backdoors. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies argued that strong encryption without special access would create warrant-proof spaces where criminals and terrorists could hide, and they pushed for legal and technical mechanisms to ensure they could listen when authorized. In the 1990s, legislation such as the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act mandated that telecommunication systems be designed with technical capabilities that allowed lawful interception. These access points were framed as narrow and controlled, to be used only with proper authorization. But cybersecurity experts warned at the time that any deliberate backdoor, any built-in weakness, would be attractive not just to domestic agencies, but also to hackers and foreign intelligence services who might discover and exploit the same pathways. Those warnings proved prescient as various vulnerabilities and implementation flaws surfaced over the years. The tension between secure for everyone and accessible to authorities never truly resolved. Instead, it produced a patchwork of systems where some communications were strongly protected, while others contained hidden weaknesses. Even when backdoors were not explicitly built in, pressure to enable exceptional access influenced design decisions and standards discussions, sometimes resulting in protocols that were less robust than they could have been. The problem is that encryption is not a local feature. It is a global foundation. If you weaken it in one place to help one actor, you often weaken it for everyone, everywhere. That principle becomes even more critical in the context of quantum computing, where the distinction between hard but possible and impossible in practice blurs as computational power increases rapidly. An algorithm that once took millions of years to break with classical computers could, in theory, be broken in a feasible time frame by a sufficiently advanced quantum system. By pursuing backdoors and resisting universal deployment of the strongest available encryption, institutions made a trade-off: more immediate investigative visibility in exchange for weaker long-term protection of everyone's data. On quantum day zero, that trade-off looks catastrophic. Systems that were already compromised by design become even more vulnerable, and any previously captured encrypted traffic, stored by governments, companies, or adversaries, becomes a target for retrospective decryption. The fatal choice here was to treat trust in encryption as negotiable, something that could be bent for short-term needs without consequence. Quantum computing reveals that those bends were actually fractures, spreading silently through the infrastructure that holds our digital lives together. Number 3. The quantum threat. We ignored. For years, quantum computing existed on the horizon. a fascinating research field with huge potential and equally huge uncertainties. Yet cryptographers and security experts consistently pointed out one critical implication. Many of the public key algorithms that secure the internet today are fundamentally vulnerable to quantum attacks. Modern digital security relies heavily on asymmetric cryptography, where one key encrypts and another, private key decrypts. This is what protects everything from secure web connections to software updates and digital signatures. The security of these systems depends on certain math problems being practically unsolvable with classical computers, such as factoring large numbers or solving discrete logarithms. Quantum algorithms, most famously Shor's algorithm, directly attack those problems, potentially making it feasible for a quantum computer to derive private keys from public ones. In practice, that means that once a sufficiently powerful quantum computer exists, many of the encryption schemes used to secure traffic today could be broken, turning intercepted ciphertext into plain text. Security professionals refer to the moment when these algorithms effectively fail as Q-Day, because the level of protection provided by those schemes drops to zero. They become functionally useless against adversaries with quantum capabilities. The threat does not start on Q-Day. It starts years earlier with what is known as harvest now, decrypt later. Adversaries can record encrypted traffic today, banking sessions, diplomatic communications, personal messages, corporate secrets, and store them until quantum tools are ready to break the keys. That means even if no widely known quantum attack exists yet, the data being transmitted now is already at risk in the future, especially if it needs to stay confidential for more than a few years. Symmetric algorithms like AES are more resilient but not immune. Quantum techniques such as Grover's algorithm can effectively halve their security strength, making shorter keys far less safe than originally intended. While increasing key lengths can help, it is not a complete solution, and it does nothing for the asymmetric algorithms at the heart of Internet key exchange and digital identity. Despite these warnings, global migration to quantum-resistant cryptography has been slow. Standards bodies and researchers are working on post-quantum algorithms, and some financial institutions and governments are funding transitions, but the gap between awareness and implementation remains large. For many organizations, the cost, complexity, and lack of immediate pressure make this feel like a problem for the future, a future that is arriving faster than expected. Ignoring the quantum threat was not just a technical oversight, it was a temporal gamble. The decision to delay migration effectively gambled that Q-Day would arrive after the data at risk had lost its value, that no one would care about reading it anymore. History suggests that assumption is dangerously optimistic. Number 2. Surveillance capitalism becomes the default. By the time quantum risks became widely known, the economic model of the Internet was already locked in: surveillance capitalism. The majority of free services, search engines, social networks, email platforms, news sites, did not charge money. They charged attention and data. In this model, every action online was both a user behavior and a monetizable signal, something that could be collected, analyzed, and used to predict or influence future actions. Data brokers, ad networks, platforms, and analytics firms formed a layered ecosystem where individuals became the raw material for continuous experimentation. Advanced machine learning transformed this data into scores, segments, and labels, categorizing people as high value or low value, risky or safe, persuadable or resistant. These labels informed pricing, product offerings, content recommendations, and even political messaging, often without the knowledge or consent of the people being classified. In this environment, privacy was not just neglected, it was directly at odds with the business model. Limiting data collection, enforcing strict retention policies, or truly anonymizing records would reduce the granularity and effectiveness of targeting, which could hurt revenue. As a result, the incentives push toward more aggressive tracking, broader data sharing, and longer retention periods, even as public concern about privacy grew. Attempts to regulate this model, such as the European Union's data protection frameworks, created important rights on paper, including access, correction, and deletion. But enforcement has been uneven, and the underlying economic logic remains intact. Some companies comply minimally while designing around the spirit of the rules, burying consent in dark patterns and legal language. The fatal choice here was collective. Societies accepted an infrastructure where the default setting of the economy required intimate knowledge of individuals. Once that choice was made, the volume and sensitivity of data being generated, stored, and traded grew far beyond what earlier technologists had imagined. Quantum Day Zero turns this vast interlinked web of surveillance data into a far more dangerous asset, because it is not just isolated records at risk, but the entire relational map of human behavior. In a world where every person is a data source, and every data source feeds a prediction machine, privacy becomes a counterforce to profit. And in that conflict, profit usually wins. Number 1. The illusion. That nothing to hide meant nothing to lose. At the top of this list, the strongest, most fatal choice is not a law or a protocol. It is a story people told themselves. I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to fear. This phrase became a social anesthetic, numbing concern about data collection, surveillance, and weak security by reframing privacy as something only guilty people need. This mindset had several profound effects. First, it shifted the burden of proof. Instead of institutions having to justify why they needed more data, individuals were expected to justify why they wanted privacy. Wanting encryption, anonymity, or data minimization was subtly framed as suspicious, something associated with criminals or extremists rather than ordinary citizens. Second, it made harms invisible by focusing only on immediate consequences, arrests, scandals, exposure, rather than long-term risks like profiling, discrimination, or future misuse of stored data. But privacy is not about hiding wrongdoing. It is about maintaining a zone of autonomy where people can think, speak, and evolve without being constantly judged or recorded. It protects not just secrets, but the process of becoming, changing opinions, making mistakes, exploring identities. When every action is logged and linked, people are less free to experiment, dissent, or simply be inconsistent in ways that make humans human. The nothing to hide narrative also ignored power imbalances. Governments, corporations, and data brokers do not live under symmetrical transparency. They know far more about individuals than individuals know about them. This asymmetry enables manipulation and control, targeted political messaging, discriminatory pricing, unfair denial of services, and more, all based on data trails that people never consciously consented to share in such depth. On Quantum Day Zero, the true cost of this illusion becomes clear. The question is no longer, do you have something to hide? But, who controls the complete, machine-readable history of your life? That history includes not just what you did, but what others inferred about you. Your supposed risk level, your predicted political loyalty, your likelihood of defaulting on a loan. Those inferences, once locked behind encryption or stored in proprietary systems, are suddenly exposed to whoever has the capability and motivation to unlock them. The most fatal choice was believing that the risks of data collection were someone else's problem. Future people, future governments, future victims. Quantum Day Zero collapses that distance, turning future risk into present reality. Conclusion. Before Quantum Day Zero. What you can still do. If this story ended at Quantum Day Zero, it would be a pure dystopia. But the clock has not struck yet, and some damage is still preventable, or at least reducible. The same global systems that created this crisis can also be redirected toward stronger encryption, stricter data minimization, and a cultural reset on what privacy means in the quantum era. On the technical side, organizations need to accelerate the transition toward quantum-resistant cryptography. That means adopting post-quantum algorithms being standardized by cryptographic bodies, increasing symmetric key strengths where appropriate, and auditing where long-term confidentiality really matters, from health records to state secrets. It also means reducing data hoarding, deleting what is no longer needed, avoiding indefinite retention, and minimizing the information collected in the first place. On the legal and economic fronts, societies must treat data brokers and surveillance-driven business models as structural risks, not quirks of the market. Stronger regulations can impose real limits on data collection, enforce transparency about profiling, and give individuals genuine rights to access and erase their information. But regulation alone is not enough if cultural attitudes remain unchanged. At the individual level, action still matters, even if it cannot solve everything. Using end-to-end encrypted messaging where possible, enabling stronger security settings, reducing oversharing on social media, and supporting products and policies that respect privacy all send a signal about what kind of digital future is acceptable. Rejecting the nothing to hide myth and understanding privacy as a collective right, something that protects vulnerable people, future generations, and democracy itself, is a crucial shift. If you're watching this and feel that uneasy mix of fear and clarity, that is the point. Quantum Day Zero is not a date on a calendar. It is a trajectory, one that can still be bent. If this deep dive into the death of privacy opened your eyes, do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to Top 10 Gama so you do not miss the next investigation into the technologies quietly reshaping your life. Second, share this video with someone who thinks privacy is overrated, because they are exactly the person who needs to understand what is coming. And third, tell us in the comments. Which of these 10 choices do you think was the most fatal? And what are you personally willing to change before Quantum Day Zero arrives?